Let's see.
Scott just asked me to resend the link, which I did, so he should be joining shortly.
Still waiting on Scott. Is that all we're missing?
Scott's still having trouble connecting. Let me try one more time here, or maybe Jerry.
I'm on.
Oh, there. Oh, gotcha. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, we're done now. All right, this is our work session for tonight. It's November 15th, 2021, 6:15. We were going to get our work session done. We have a couple of items tonight. The big one is our budget. We have Lorraine with us to walk us through. We have some budget highlights and notes that we need to talk about tonight. And I'm hoping to get this budget into a place that we start working final draft that will have adopted by the first week of December. So real quick, Andy, you want to talk about the dedication plaque, please?
Certainly. The first item in your packet is a proposed plaque for the dedication of the improved and expanded wastewater treatment facility. And this is just a draft, and we'd like to have a ribbon cutting. The project is winding up. Next couple of months, it'll be finishing, substantially complete, probably by the end of this year. And DOLA has asked about a ribbon cutting, and I know that the DOLA representatives from DOLA and from the Power and Water Authority that provided our loans, DOLA that provided our grants, probably representatives from CDPHE would all like to be part of the ribbon cutting. So two things. First, we wanted to ask about a dedication plaque and let you have some input. Again, this is a draft, which is in your packet. So if there are any changes that you'd like to see to it, please let us know. The second, while you're thinking about that, is dates for ribbon cutting. And we have two sets of dates. And we're looking at either early December or early January. And either a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I don't know those exact dates right in front of me, but any of those dates work for the state, it appears. So I wanted to just see if council had a preference, either early December or early January. And if you don't have a preference, my recommendation would be January, just to give us a little more time to prepare, make sure the plaque is received if we decide we want to move forward with the plaque. And just make sure everybody gets invited. We've got the holidays. It just takes a little extra effort to try to get these things pulled together. So that's what's before you.
Did you already have a plaque that we were going to look at and Because I didn't get anything in my packet. Did you have something in mind already, Andy, that we need to look at and make comments on, or?
In the first,
Second page, yeah.
second page, there should be a picture of a mock-up there, Mayor.
I've got this and that.
I think that's what you're holding there. I think that's it.
Oh, this is the plaque?
On the back side there.
Oh,
One thought I had for an addition to that is maybe recognizing the contributions of the DOLA and the Colorado Power and Water Authority. I think it would be good. They helped make this project possible with the grants and the very low interest loans.
absolutely. We don't have a picture of the one up the water plant, do you?
We just happen to have one of those. John got one of those. And if you give me just a moment, if you want to continue the conversation, I can find that and pull it up.
Yeah, I think this is great. I think that for all of us to have our name on something, this was a tough decision that we had to figure out how we were going to do. There was a lot of sleepless nights with money and how we were going to pay for it. And what a huge accomplishment to have a asset to the city that'll last us out for the next 30 plus years.
So is it going to be brass or wood, or what are you going to make it out of? Material.
We were thinking it would be maybe bronze.
Bronze.
Yeah. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the from the water treatment plant, the improvements that were done to the water treatment plant, and that's a pretty fancy one. It's got the mock-up on there. Personally, I'm not sure we need that, but it gives you an idea of who else was on there, who else was listed on there.
Okay.
One other item that was brought up on a possible change to the draft there is, do we also want to include the other council members who were on council earlier on in this project and in the planning of the project who aren't on council now?
I think that we should have those names listed.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that. I'm good with this, kind of making it, even if it's out of the same material as that one, with the addition of DOLA, CDPHE maybe even mentioned on it, where we got our revolving loan from, to make this happen at a very, what other people don't know, it was a very low interest rate. I think 0 on the first one and maybe 0.25% on the second one. So that was huge. That basically free money to be able to do this with.
Can we put John Bardoni's name on there? He had a lot to do with this.
John Bordoni should be on there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
EPA.
You taking notes, Andy? John said maybe have the.
Yes, I am. Yep.
And is this kind of how we think it should read, Andy? The water resource reclamation facility, the dedication funded by the citizen, so funded by the citizens of Idaho Springs, and how should that read?
Let me pull that up here. Where are you, Mayor?
I'm just trying to read
The wording.
It says dedicated December 2021, funded by the citizens of Idaho Springs. Should it be? Well, no, we're paying back loans. DOLA should be there because it was funded by DOLA with
Yeah,
no.
that's where I was thinking we'd add the Power and Water Authority and DOLA, maybe the citizens of Idaho Springs, DOLA, and Power and Water Authority, perhaps.
Funded jointly.
Yep.
Yeah, funded jointly. I like that. Any other ideas, council? So what we ought to do is find a company that's going to do this and have them do a prototype, not a prototype, but draw it up for us and bring it back to council so we can look at it and make sure that we have all the names in the right spot and how we want it to read.
Should we include Andy's name and Diane's name?
Sure. The more the merrier. They were here through the whole process. Yeah, we could do that. And then, like Andy said, we'll add the other council members that were on before, well, at the start of this, and then they weren't, then they were turned out, or they felt like that.
And Andy, I think you're right about the January timeframe. It wouldn't have to be such a rush on this.
Okay. Yeah, I think if we want to get a proof back, which we should get a proof, I mean, that's wise. We get the proof back, and then is there for that first week in January, that first full week in January, any preference among council, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday during the day?
I myself prefer Friday. That's just me.
Friday.
Friday
Right.
sounds good.
All righty, we'll go with Friday. Does someone have a calendar? What's that date? The 6th or something? What is that? That first Friday in January.
7th.
7th? Okay, so
Yeah.
Friday, January 7th. That's before the new council takes office too, so. Great.
Was there an architect of note involved in any of this?
Not an architect. JVA, of course, was our engineering firm.
Okay,
We probably would want to mention the name of the firm and the plaque that provided the technology, because it really is, cutting edge technology and not very, very common. So it's.
So can we do it early on that Friday? Earlier? 8, 9?
When will it be warmest?
Doesn't matter to me.
apparently
Yes,
not.
I think we should plan to do it in the morning. I agree.
I would say 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning would be good. I don't want to do 8.
Maybe some hot coffee.
Would you mind moving it to the 14th instead of the 17th? Because that's my day off.
The 14th instead of the 7th, Scott?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you do that?
I can check with the state. We hadn't considered that date, but I can certainly ask.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. I might not be able to make the 7th work, but
Okay. I will.
Okay. All right. We'll put it into play. Very good. Okay. Let's get our budgets out. And what are we going to do? Have Lorraine kind of walk us through and highlight some things and talk about, or should we talk about the highlights in the ahead of time before we start plugging along?
Yes, Mayor, I'll kick it off. So what you have in your packet is the highlights, and this is an updated version of the highlights that you've seen before. Many of these items we've already talked about and council's given direction on. What I've done in the highlights is highlight in yellow those remaining items that I really think that either are new or changed, or we just need some direction on to wrap up the budget. And there may be other things that council wants to talk about as well, and that's fine. Other item, of course, is the formatted proposed budget for 2022. And Lorraine prepared that, and it is the first draft of the formatted budget. So this is moving from our Excel spreadsheet, kind of our working document, into the format that you will see when you actually adopt the budget. So this is the format that we will use going forward and all the way up to when we adopt the budget on December 13th. So I think it would be best if we started with the highlights, and that's the. And would you like me to share that screen? Would that be helpful, or should we just talk through it?
You can share it, Andy. That'd be
Okay.
good.
All righty. Let me. Let's see here. Okay. Just move this. Okay, so everybody see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay. The first item I wanted to bring up was an item that affects all departments. When we last spoke, I mentioned that the Consumer Price Index was from July of 20 to July of 21. That was the most recent one at the time that was reported was 3.5%. And of course, everyone, I'm sure, is aware of the news and is feeling inflation. And the most recent CPI that's available is September of 20 to September of 21, and that's 4.5%, which is a 20-year high and climbing. And it's been in the news that now it may be closer to even 6%. So inflation is certainly climbing. And I just wanted to pose the question whether we might want to consider bumping up the minimum wage salary increase for employees for 2022 a bit higher, maybe to 5%. So I just wanted to put that out and for your consideration.
Andy, have you done the calculations of what that extra 1% will cost the city?
I knew you were going to ask that. And that's a good question. I can get that information back to you. I do not have that information right at hand, Mayor, but I can certainly bring that back to you all.
Yeah, I'd like two numbers. One, the 4%.
Yep.
And then of course the extra, I mean, we could probably calculate it, but yeah, the 4%, what that's going to cost and what that additional 1% would cost the city.
Okay. And bear in mind that there are going to be some other adjustments above and beyond that, such as what the ones that have already been discussed for the police department. Those will be higher than the 4%, and others who we needed to get to the base of the range after the salary survey.
Any other thoughts, council, on the 4 to 5%?
Well, as hard as it is to get, employees, I'd go for the higher percentage and maintain, keep them. Because if we lose an employee, who knows when we get one back.
I agree with John. I'm leaning 5%. Just to pile on what Andy said, we were looking at a 30-year high at 6.2 recently. And I just believe that 5% probably is not going to keep up with where we're really at. And like John said, we have oftentimes very experienced employees. And, I can just imagine if you lost somebody at the water plant or the sewer plant, for example, and we all know what we're dealing with there at the police department. We woefully underpay compared to other departments. But I realize the police it's a separate matter, but I'm all for the 5%.
I would like, go ahead.
Well, I would agree with that. And I think we're fortunate that these CPI numbers came out prior to this discussion. And I think for us to ignore it would be really bad. So definitely support the 5%.
This is Art. I agree 100%, but I would like to tag along on Chuck as far as the police department is concerned. Just recently, in fact, as of yesterday, I got a notification about Boulder looking for police, Black Hawk looking for police. And if you're going to up that a little bit, my numbers were a little different, but I thought for the purpose of that they deserve it, and secondly for marketing, I thought that we should round out the police to $60,000 based on the 58,169 we were going to give them. That's only 1871, and take that by 7 officers, we're talking 13,000, 12,817 for the year. And I just think with what's going on in this town and the increase in traffic and tourists and all that other stuff, I think we'd be able to attract more police, and I think we need to do that. I'm just taking on to what Chuck said.
I think we should look at it as well.
And I'm definitely agreeing to that. We all know what how much it costs to live right now, and it's just going to get worse. I haven't heard anything that this recession is going to go away in a year, 5 year. I think we still have several years of this kind of inflation going on.
I 100% agree. And I think Art is right. It's just a psychological threshold as well that we are very, very close to.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, Andy, if you'll get those numbers back on that for us. But I think
Okay.
we're all taking a look at the 5% increase. I just want to put it before council of what that number looks like.
Absolutely. Thank you. All righty. And again, I'm just highlighting the things that I think need to be discussed or get more direction on. And certainly if council has other things as we go through this, please let me know.
Real quick, one that you don't have highlighted that I'd like to, the long-term disability. If you'll
Yes.
back down a little bit. So right now we do not provide that. That is correct.
That's right.
Disabled off duty do not receive any kind of once they exhaust their accrued pay time off. Okay.
The only exception would be for the police officers who are in the fire and police pension program that does cover that.
So is that 30 employees? That's not, so that take away since they get the FPP?
And that's correct, Mayor. That is that you would have to back out our sworn police officers. That'd be back out 9 of the officers. Yep. So it would not be 30. It would be 21 approximately employees. And that's allocated among the departments. That 13,709 has been apportioned among the departments based on the number of employees.
So that's about $457 per employee.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, per year. That's important.
I agree.
I agree.
All right, let's implement that. Let's put it in.
Okay, sounds good. And then in the general fund, 2 new revenue sources. Of course, one was on our ballot, on the city ballot, and that's the second bullet there, and that's the new revenue source of approximately $50,000 from the marijuana excise transfer tax. And so that did pass as of 11/11. The clerk, county clerk, is comfortable saying that that's going to pass. So, and this was council desired that this go towards recreation, parks and recreation. So that'll be added on to our funds that we receive from marijuana related sources.
And I want to make sure this gets done because my pot for potholes never happened. Because we were supposed to set up an account that we were going to use some of the revenues from marijuana to fix our streets and do some pothole work. So, yeah, let's just make sure that this gets used in the way that we intended for it to be used.
Now it'll be pots for playgrounds.
Pot for playgrounds.
Under general fund, the first bullet is a new revenue source from Clear Creek Road and Bridge ballot measure that passed. Under that measure, municipalities will receive 25% of the approximately 1.8 million first year revenue, or 450. And my understanding is that money will be divided based on the road miles in each municipality, based on the HUTF formula. And so based on that, it's estimated that Idaho Springs may receive about 200,000. So not a huge sum, but that will certainly help.
Andy, and I want to check in to see, I'm almost, this has to be for transportation purposes. Maybe this is a way we offset the cost of our portion of a transit center. I don't know. That would be considered transport. Okay.
All righty. Let's see here. We are asking the Clear Creek Economic Development Corporation to increase its contribution to the city from 15,000 to 18,000 for 1 day a week of our Assistant City Administrator's time, John Kane, 8 hours a week. So that I believe is going to the board, the Economic Development Corporation Board meeting tomorrow. And but I want to let you know that we are asking, his time is valuable, and we want to see that bumped up a bit.
Okay.
Then there are 2 items under community promotion that need to be council or staff would like to get some direction on. One is the request from the Historical Society of Idaho Springs for the operation of the Visitor Center. And the other is the new request from the Idaho Springs Marketing Alliance. So, and you heard, you've received written requests from both these organizations, and also they did provide presentations at previous work sessions. So we just wanted to get some idea of how to handle these 2 items.
Well, I'd just like to point out with the Historical Society that there was about $30,000 that was going to go for the visitor center had it not been for COVID. The city was going to kick in an extra, it was approximately $7,000 for an extra position during the busy summer season. And unfortunately, we have had a executive director who has been volunteering about $10,000 worth of work. And I think the other $10,000, as was pointed out in the presentation, is just because of the cost, particularly of personnel. So I'm just saying, for those reasons, I believe that that is a very reasonable request, and I'm for it.
Any other thoughts, council, on the operations increase and the seasonal staffing increase? Oh, and our executive director position. So
What's that take the total compensation for the director's position to with the 10,000?
do you know, maybe Jan can answer that, or even Chuck, he's on that treasurer. Jan, what's the current wage salary for the executive director? Do you know?
Would defer to Chuck on that one.
Do you have that number off the top of your head, Chuck?
Yeah, it was, she's $21 and change per hour. And she had been budgeted for 25 hours, but she had been working 35, 40, virtually every single week without.
Okay.
Well, Chuck knows this better than I do, so if I go along with Chuck's recommendation.
Well, I do as well.
I
Needless
do
to say.
I do also.
We're looking at a total of 10, 23, 33,000 a year to the Historical Society to cover costs of seasonal staffing, increase for the additional hours for the executive director, and to give the employees a little bit more money. And I will tell you this as an employer, the employees are running. If they don't like how much money you're giving them, they're not going to work for you. They can go somewhere else. And you know, when you got restaurants paying cooks 22 to 25 bucks an hour, you know, it's just us trying to get people in there. And I know it's been a struggle, especially through the pandemic, of getting people in there to work at minimum wage. Who's going to work at minimum wage this you know, at this point in our you know, our economy? You know, $12 an hour is not going to go far. So I would support to go ahead and provide the additional assistance to the Historical Society. Any other thoughts, council?
So Mayor, just to confirm, that would be an additional 23,000 to the operating budget. Is that right?
I think it's 10, 13, and 10, right?
Uh,
43.
33.
Well, with the 10,000 for the executive director, all comes to 43.
Okay, I was just speaking of additional funding, so that it would be
Oh,
increased 13,000 plus 10,000, so 23,000. That would just be
Yes.
the amount of the increase. So
Because we're already budgeted for the 10. Okay, yes,
the
23.
10 and the 23,670, that's already in the budget. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then the next item is the Idaho Springs Marketing Alliance.
So I will say that one to give $60,000 to a group that I'm not sure that they are promoting the whole city, citywide. This is $60,000. I don't know, and I've suggested that they talk to the tourism board, the county tourism, and find out what they're doing with all their money. There should be some money that should be allocated to the municipalities to promote, or the county tourism to promote our communities. $60,000, I look at that. Right now, I think that what I'm hearing from businesses is, do we really need more people here? People are already struggling, trying to open up their full restaurant, getting employees to accommodate, and doesn't make a lot of sense to spend this kind of money to advertise when, from what I hear from businesses, it's good. It's good. Also, I think about the $60,000 again. We have some capital improvement. We've got bathroom at Citizens Park that's probably going to cost us anywhere probably between 100 and 150 to get done. This is a lot of money that I'm not really sure. I really appreciate all the hard work that everybody's done on this and keeping downtown moving along and progressing through the pandemic. I'm just a little bit nervous about handing this kind of money over for media and marketing and branding. Are we at a time we really need this right now, or do we have other purposes that we need to be thinking about and getting done before we entertain something like this?
And it's hard to measure what the results would be from all this spending, because some of it's so intangible you can't measure it. And that's not their fault. It's just that it's that kind of business they're in, or section that they're in, as far as what they do for a living. So you can't measure all of what they're telling you they're going to do with it. You can't measure the results like you can by fixing a bathroom, or like some of the items you mentioned, Mr. Mayor. So that concerns me a little bit as well.
And
I
also,
agree with those comments. I agree with the comments of Mike. We have to make some tough decisions, and to say yes to everything, I don't see that's financially responsible to the city.
Thank you, Scott. Well said.
anybody else? And we already do. We have a budget for community promotions. I don't know how much we put in that every year. I'd have to look here in the packet in a minute. But we already do. We've got 4th of July that costs us, $35,000 to $40,000 between the bands, and we already pay for the flowers, to decorate up downtown. So the city already does put in things to help promote the city, if you will. So it's not like we're not doing anything. It's just, especially this year, I think this is just a huge number. And like Art, I just don't know how we can measure the successes of additional $60,000 being put into this.
Just moving forward here, and that's something the next council could consider. It seems to me that perhaps we need a little more formal process for asks from all community organizations, to the purpose of the money and deliverables on, hopefully what results are anticipated and what will happen. And I know there's a tendency to get sort of heavy on that sort of thing in terms of adding more and more detail as time goes on. But it seems to me it's a lot of money, and it's a pretty casual process. And it seems to me more required definition from the organizations asking would make a lot of sense to begin with.
And the other thing that I'm not seeing that I'm a little disappointed in is you've got the ISMA that has formed a group, but we have a Chamber of Commerce, and I don't think that they were working together, to come up with a collaborative plan for Idaho Springs. And like I said, I'll mention the tourism board as well. The county gets the money for the tourism board, the county tourism from lodging tax. Well, we've got lodging taxes that are coming from our hotels and others here in our community. And I really don't know where that money is being implemented at. Is it being put back where it should be, is put back into the community to advertise and to market our community? And I'm not sure that we have that answer. I've asked John Kane a couple of times, and he couldn't really get the answer as well. Okay, well, I'm hearing consensus that we will not be putting this $60,000 request into our budget. Is that what I'm hearing?
I agree.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about, since Art brought it up about the PD, let's back up to the PD for a minute. Andy, please.
Okay. Yep.
So this is one I'm concerned about. Right now, we know, one, how hard it is to get officers. We already know that there's been a climate developed over the past several years. People don't want to be police officers anymore. And I think for us to make sure that we're fully staffed, protecting our community, and making sure that we have officers available when calls and tones come out, this is a huge priority. I think it should be for our city right now. Art mentioned that the 58,169, maybe we round it up to 60,000. I'm completely okay with that. I don't know. I'm still believe that that's still less than the county pays the deputies. However, of course, right now, and I understand that they're working on a retirement and pension program at the county. Right now, they don't offer that we do offer. So that is a benefit of being a police officer in our community. But I would agree to Art to even raise this a little bit more for PD to see if this will help bring in and make us be more upfront with people looking for police work, and keep us somewhat competitive. We'll never be able to compete with Denver and Jefferson County and things like that. But I think for a small community, getting it up to that 60,000, I think that would be something that would entertain and would catch the eye of somebody that was looking for a job in police work. Any comments on that?
Absolutely.
Mike, do you have?
agree.
Yes, I agree 100%. I'm wondering if you have any other thoughts of perhaps, changes in this budget besides salary.
Are you talking about for the police budget?
Yeah, for the police department. Yeah, right. I'm sorry. Yeah. To enhance it.
I think that Chief, you can speak on that. Do you think incentives really work? I know that we're talking about help paying for the Post Academy and things like that. Would you just kind of speak on this for a second with us?
Council, Mayor, absolutely. Thank you for the obvious support of and the important work that needs to be done. And I'm not going to argue. I agree that obviously the psychological part of just that sort of number, I think is a great way to start. It is in there, I believe, to have run with basically, I kind of call it a pilot program of paying for someone to go to the academy and have that budgeted. That may not be, we may end up getting people that are certified, but we may not. So I think having the option is outstanding. And my goal again would be to maybe find somebody in the area that's already in the area that would fit this bill, that just can't afford to go, but they really want to be a police officer and they're qualified and they're ready to go. And then paying for the equipment, I think, is also another big step, because it is it's hard when you've got to pay for the academy and pay for all the equipment, and then you're sort of, it's an unknown as to whether or not you're going to get a job. So I think these are great first steps. I'm very excited about that, and I appreciate everyone's it seems very unwavering support.
Thank you, Art, for helping us focus on this again. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So are we all good with go ahead and taking that up to an even $60,000?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
All right. Keep on going.
Alrighty, 1% street fund. We've had some further discussion with John and John Bordoni and the mayor, and we would like to be prepared to reconstruct some of the streets in the city that are some of the worst. We've made a lot of strides, but we recommend that we go ahead and put in some design and engineering money for a couple streets to at least get the plans ready for that work. And so that way, when we have grant opportunities, as we build up our funds for street work, that we're ready to go. You'll often hear, are you shovel ready? And that's very often important with when you're requesting grants. They want to know that if you're awarded a grant, that you're ready to go, that you're serious. So we're recommending that we use part of the 1% street fund to go ahead and start some design and engineering for at least a couple streets in the city. And the other thing that was added, we know that there are going to be some streets that probably need water and sewer replacement, but they're not as bad as some other streets. But in order to get some more life out of them until we can do a full reconstruction, which is very expensive, John's recommending that we put in some money for some overlay on some of the streets that could really use it. These are streets that we just won't be able to do a total reconstruction for a few years out, but it'll tide us over. John, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add on that.
No, I think you covered it, Andy. I think that's the most important thing, is to have something ready, especially now that this transportation bill has been signed by the president. I'm not exactly sure how that will affect municipalities in Colorado, but it appears to be positive.
Okay.
All righty. A lot of capital projects there we've already discussed. And now the last item is a big one. It's the water and wastewater department, and with the 1% sales tax ballot measure failing, the question is what should the rates be for next year? What should we budget for on rate increases for next year for water and sewer?
So in our study, it has suggested that what you have right there, 6% for water and 24% for wastewater. How, if we don't increase this, that puts us in a position that we may not have enough revenue to pay our loans, right?
That's right. I mean, we do have to keep adequate reserves. We do have to make sure that part of the loan documents are that you keep adequate reserves in the funds, and of course, at the bare minimum, we got to be able to pay back the debt service. So that is certainly a big piece of it. And then, of course, we also have those capital improvements that are in the queue.
Go back to that earlier premise, which is absolutely true, is we have no choice. And unless there's some perhaps turnaround in the sales tax item. But at this point in time, I think we need to assume the worst.
I think we have to, and I think we were talking earlier, the citizens will, have a chance perhaps in November to revisit this. Because I think that these rates, are unpalatable. I mean, I think eventually most of the citizens will come around to a 1% sales tax, but I think in the meantime, I don't know what other choice we have to implement these increases.
Yeah, we don't.
I agree. We gotta just increase the rates and bear with it.
I can't do that in clear consciousness. I'll tell you the guys that up front, 24%. Sorry, not with everything else going on. I know what we say about we're obligated and all, we need the reserves, all that other stuff. I would just think this financial wizard that we have should be able to come up with a better idea than 24%.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have time. They just redid a rate study, 6 months ago? Is that right, Andy? About 6 months ago, they redid it?
Yes.
And there's no time before this needs to go before April to really do that.
This certainly will focus possibly on a future election regarding the sales tax.
And I think that's a great idea, but that's a hard sell when you have 24% sitting in people's checkbook that has to come out more. And I know what we're saying, and I know what we're going to do. They did have a chance to vote. Maybe we didn't explain it well enough. I don't know what the reason is, but that's I couldn't do it. I couldn't vote for that. So I'm probably the only one, but I'm going to tell you guys that up front.
Well, one thought, I think with further analysis, if the sales tax is approved next November, that 24% could be cut back considerably.
Exactly. I was going to say that, Bob, that in the event that it passes next November, it should be looked at as that it could be a reduction, that could go back down that following year, that next April.
Yeah, substantial reduction, actually.
So
I would think
that might be the way to sell it. That hey, if this passes, your water bill is going to actually go down from what it is currently. But yeah, no, believe me, this is a tough pill to swallow, and that's why we tried to execute a way of offsetting those increases like that. Whenever I saw 24% for wastewater, it's a tough pill to swallow for sure.
Yeah, there were other scenarios that were actually worse.
Mayor, we did try. In fact, we actually kicked around 0.5% or 1/4%. And the general consensus was to go for the full percent because anything less was half measures and not giving folks the relief that they really needed.
And we were going to give relief to a 1, maybe 2% for the next, I think it was 9 years that this would have covered us out into the future. I mean, I don't think we have any choice this year but to implement these increases, and new council should be working immediately on the ballot measure for next year and helping the community understand what this means. And I think once it hits their pocketbook, then they say, whoa, I didn't know that's what this means. Because I believe Art's right on people don't ask for information. They're not going to call for information. And most of those blue books go from the post office box right into that trash can right outside of that post office box, right? They see that and they just throw it in the garbage. So this is kind of like tough love, it's going to happen, and then should make it easier for next November if new council decides to put this measure back on the ballot at that time.
If I'm not mistaken, we already reduced the rates from the recommendation on the last raise, wasn't it? So we tried to give relief by not raising the full amount of the recommendation the last time.
Yep, yep. And remember, Art said, we're not gonna just try to catch it up next year. And that wasn't the case. That's not what we're trying to do.
Mayor, forgive me for, I don't know if I'm speaking out of school, but that's basically 30%, 6 and 24. But how, I'm just trying to understand, please don't take it the wrong way that, I'm pushing back on any means at all, but how financially, how is it that we went from spending that much money on the facility to know that this very well could be reality, that if this does get voted down, I mean, it says, no, we're not going to have the increase. There, obviously, we have to have this to make debt services, but why would we put ourselves financially into a burden like that as a city, knowing that would be a possibility?
Jim, I can answer that in just a few words. That the city councils in the past have put it off and put it off and put it off, and it's added up. And we knew this was going to happen sooner or later, and here we are.
And
Right.
Also the mandate to increase our capacity at the plant. This was not something that, if we weren't told by the state as saying, hey, you're not only having to plan, but you have to be ready finding funding for, we would have never been here. But this was something that we were forced to do, that we had to do it, and with the users on our service, we all have to foot the bill for it.
Yeah.
And we were like I said, we got money from Dolo, though we got some free money to help offset some of this stuff too. So it could have actually been worse, per se.
Right. Okay.
Is there no way we can go back to the state and just tell them, show them what we're doing as far as the rates and with all the things that are going on in the economy and get them to help us pay for some of this stuff? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not saying what you gentlemen are saying is not true, not logical, not fiscal responsibility, but you can't tell that to the citizens. And now with all what's going on, I don't know which one of us is going to be put on the train tarred and feathered, but I hope it's not me. It's just, I know what you're saying, but I'm sorry. I don't know how the residents are going to be able to afford this. And we're talking about how rents go up and all these other things. And like and we gave them an opportunity. They didn't take it. That's their fault, but I'm sorry. It's still 24% is just, and with the other 6, I can't go along with it. I know I'm not going to stop it, but I'm not going to go along with it.
I'm not trying to water this down at all, because this is horrible. But it actually, I think this is going to come in like about an 18% increase. You can think of it this way. One of these is slightly weighted higher than the other. But for easier math, about half your bill would go up 6%. The other half your bill would go up 24%. I'm saying it's blended, and it's going to end up being like 18.5%.
Well, I think you and I should go down the street with a camera and a microphone and let you explain that to the residents and see what your reaction is going to be.
Oh, Art, I 100% agree. Like I said, I'm not trying to suggorite it.
No, I know that you're being factual, and I appreciate. No, Chuck, I know you're being factual, and the numbers that you're quoting are probably right on the money. But we talk about this week after week after week, and it sinks into everybody individually in a different capacity. The residents, all they see is 28%, 24%, 6%. There's no logic. They don't want to hear about the prior city councils. They don't want to hear about the state mandating. They don't want to hear any of that stuff. All they know is when they write that check, let's go with your number, Chuck. It's going to be 18% higher.
Yep, I agree. Art.
You know,
I
that's what we're
100%.
looking at.
Yep.
But I don't think it needed to be, I don't think we needed to do that had that 1% sales tax pass. We wouldn't have needed to do this. Now, I think Chuck has even stretched it out in longer terms down the road. This is just the beginning.
That's right.
There's
It's
harder
191
hits farther down.
Yeah, $600 more per year for the average water user 9 years from now. It's huge. Since we only have 6 bills, that's about $115 a bill extra.
Yeah.
This is only the beginning.
Well,
Yep.
often when we talk about, and this is not about developers, but when we talk about developers, the statistic that comes up often is the age, basically, of our population. And the number of those people are on fixed incomes. And they're not going to be able to afford that 691. They're not going to be able to afford probably this 30%. So what are we trying to do? Force them out of our community? I know we're not, but that's what's going to occur. And that's a repercussion of what we're doing and what the prior city council's people didn't do. But the net result is it's in our pocket. It's in our, it's in our zone, and we have to be responsible for it. And these older people who are on fixed incomes, it's going to be disastrous to them with all the other things that are going on. And I think that's something we have to think about, just not the water bill, but what it does to the residents who really can't afford this.
And I think
I'm sorry, Jim. I think the other issue that we have here is the water has to be on its own, right? We can't take budget money from another department and put it into water, which is something we'd like to maybe give relief as to, but we're up against a wall when it comes to water. It has to support itself.
And in reality, Scott, you ready for this? And I don't think I'm speaking wrong. If this ballot measure would have passed, that would have opened it up that we could actually, because our enterprise dedication would go away. So then that could have opened up that there could have been some general fund money if council so desired to help offset and pay some of this back. Lorraine,
let me add to that, Mayor. So anytime you can move money from other funds to an enterprise fund, but it loses its enterprise status at that point for that year. And so you can't treat it as an enterprise for purposes of issuing debt or other things at that point until you regain the enterprise status. So you might recall I had a concern about that with the sales tax, that if it was a steady stream of sales tax, it would never be an enterprise. It would always have to go to a vote in order to issue debt for any future construction or whatnot. So you can do it, but it jeopardizes the enterprise status in the year that you do it for issuing debt, any year that it receives more than 10% of its revenue from an outside source like that.
If we did it for 1 year, the next year, if we didn't do it, it would go back into the enterprise status?
It would. The other thing, though, to remember is you've already done this several years in a row from the Sales Tax Improvement Fund, subsidizing the wastewater and sometimes the water fund from general fund, but mostly from the Sales Tax Improvement Fund. So these funds have not been, self-supporting for a while. And it's caused one of our problems with using the general revenues for parking structures or other things that general revenues are usually put toward.
And I think it was hard too on the ballot this year with all the tax things and us in there too. We were almost at a disadvantage of trying to receive that 1% for benefit of the city. But even along with that was the marijuana and the county wanting another 1.5. So just kind of bad timing for that, that need of our 1% that ultimately I think people, the voters were like, man, even on the marijuana tax as the benefit, it was still a tax and they saw it as just that. So,
Right.
you know, they thought, geez, how much more, 3 of these right in a row, I understand fully. So anyway.
Yeah, and that was the other thing about that, the marijuana excise ballot measure. People looked at it, oh, another 5% on marijuana. And it wasn't. This is something that's already being paid. And it was just, instead of going into the county's pockets to spend on whatever they want to spend it on, we just wanted to bring it back into the rights of our businesses that are generating that. And we have, I would say, entitlement to that to put back into our community. So I think that what you're saying, I think people looked at it as an additional, and then, oh, I'm already paying X amount for my marijuana. Now they want to get another 5%. No, boom. They didn't understand that it wasn't an additional, it was just a reallocation.
Correct.
Mike, this is kind of an aside question, but have you heard anything from the county about the outcome of this tax issue we put on the ballot?
No. I told them I was going to do it in a mayor's and commissioners meeting.
Yeah.
And the reason I told them that is because if you remember, council voted down of annexing a little piece of property on Hidden Valley because they wanted to annex in and build a marijuana facility there. And we said, you know what, R3 are mostly homegrown, and we didn't want any competition with them. So we decided not to, and then lo and behold, the county gave them a license to build one there. And I said, you know what, you're going to take revenues from our city and from our businesses here that are established. So for us to recoup that money, we're going to go after that, which rightfully are ours. So that's kind of how that came about.
Okay, I'd forgotten that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Good reminder.
Okay, anything else on this? And I'm in agreement with you, Art. This increase, 24 and 6, averages out, Chuck saying 18%. We did everything. We have been listening to the public. We have been, my business, my home, everything. I've been incurring these costs as well. And I think that we as council came up with a great solution to not make it go away, but to bring the impact over the next several years down to almost nothing onto our residents of our community.
I agree. I thought we were very, very creative with that. Maybe that's why the guy put the car wash for sale. He saw the 24% coming.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
We had the same thought.
Okay, Andy, takes away.
Mayor, that's everything I wanted to cover on the highlights, unless there's anything else Mayor and Council wanted to talk about. You do have the proposed formatted budget, most recent version in the packet there. Lorraine's here as well. And Lorraine, did you have any comments in general on the budget at this point? Anything else you'd like to say?
One thing I'll just comment on is on the very first page of the formatted budget is the budget summary. And you'll just notice there that we have combined the individual funds that used to exist for one of the cemetery funds and the storm drainage fund have been combined into the general fund, like we talk about each month. And that you've always had it reported that way in your financial statements, the audited ones. So now your budget will, exactly tie in concept over to your audit. Same with the water and wastewater. Instead of having those separate IP funds showing there under the enterprise funds, they're all combined in water, one water fund and one wastewater fund. I did scroll down through the packet, and it looks like all of the pages of the formatted budget may not have made it into the packet, Andy. So perhaps you could look at that and make sure.
So is the revenue for the water fund and the wastewater, is that calculated with the proposed 6% and 24%? Is that where we're getting this number from?
No, actually, we would have to modify it as a placeholder until we knew the outcome of the election. we had put in 5% for both, just as a placeholder.
Okay, and with that
Make the
5%,
adjustment.
we're gonna have a funds available at 1 million, 131 and 1,361,000, and that's not enough for the reserves.
Well, it possibly could be. Let me see. One of the things that Raftellus looks at is the next several years. And, if there's escalating debt service, or if there's other projects that need to be taken into account and other reserves that will be needed for that, they forecast that, whereas this budget is just looking at 2022.
Is there anywhere where we can see this forecast that they use to get these 24 and 6%? Is that available to us anywhere, or can we get it somehow?
Send that study out to everybody?
Yes.
And with that in hand, and somebody comes knocking on our doors, I mean, we have numbers to show them. That might be, not that they're going to understand them. I mean, I don't either, but I'm a numbers man. But in any case, if I had that, I would like to look at it.
Lorraine, were you how's our audit doing?
A week ago today, I received the answers to some of the issues I had about the capital assets. And so frankly, I haven't had a chance to review those yet, but hope to by the end of the week. And if that's the last item that needs to be changed, then I can work with the auditors to get it out. I would still need to draft the management's discussion and analysis and do some final things once those numbers have been firmed up. The water and wastewater were already firm. There was just the governmental capital assets that there were a number of items that we needed to get in there that we didn't see in the first draft.
Okay, thank
So we're
you.
close.
Okay, is there anything through the budget council that you'd like some clarification or discussion on?
On page 2, marijuana special sales tax, I don't see an increase. It says increase $2,000. You have the road and bridge underneath there, but not the. Am I looking at the wrong category?
John, what line is that?
1,033.04.
Special sales tax.
Right below it, yeah, you have the county road and bridge added on, but you don't have the 5%.
I don't think that's where that special sales tax goes.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of asking.
Yeah, it probably needs to, since we're using this as a dedicated fund to parks, I think it needs its own line item.
Okay.
And that hasn't been added into our budget. Isn't that right, Lorraine?
Andy, I'll have to defer to you on that.
I'll have to double check where that got added or if it got added, but we'll make sure it does get added. Of course, we understand council's direction that that be for Parks and Recreation. So I'll work with Lorraine on where that should best be reflected, because we do have a separate fund for the lottery funds, which is dedicated towards recreation. Am I right, Lorraine?
That is, they're very particular about not having anything else go in there.
Okay.
And this excise tax, in the future, you may decide to put it to something else. For now, it would be for Parks and Rec. So it's not quite as restricted as the Conservation Trust funds are. Okay.
So you're recommending that we put it in the general, as a general fund revenue, and then with the understanding that it's right now that we're planning on it for Parks and Rec.
Right. We can reserve it for that, but it's not restricted for that by law.
Okay.
And then on that same page at the very bottom, it says parking fines. I thought we worked a new deal with them where we were going to get a larger percent of parking fines with the parking company. Or is that a different, is that our, our guy tickets?
This is the fines that go through municipal court as opposed to the fees, which is what the new deal will affect. And those are elsewhere, fees, I believe. Is that correct, Andy?
The parking revenues, that's in the special improvement.
No, I'm just talking about the parking fines, Andy, at the bottom of
Okay.
page 2.
Yeah, and that's fines issued by our police department.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, council, any other clarifying questions? While we have Lorraine here that can answer them for us, and Andy.
So Mayor and Council, we are tentatively planning to have a work session the first Monday in December. I don't have that date right in front of me, but that two items at least on that would be to have Lorraine provide a financial update. And then also we'd be hopefully presenting the audit as well, the 2020 audit. So that's our goal. So I want to let you know that we will likely have a work session on that evening. We will have a work session on that evening.
In January?
No, that's December.
Okay.
December 6th.
December 6th, right?
Yes.
Yep, first Monday in December, and then of course the following week we
Adopt.
regular meeting.
Yeah, that's when we have to have it adopted by that second meeting in December.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else from anybody on the budget? All right, good work, everybody. I know I missed a couple of meetings that we were talking about the budget, but Andy gave me an update of kind of what was going on, and I tried to catch up and help understand what everybody was talking about. So I appreciate y'all's patience with me. This last month kind of crazy for me, so. All right.
Always so nice to wrap this up. Wow. Especially for the staff.
Okay, very good. All right, if we don't have anything else for tonight, I say that we can adjourn our meeting. And thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Be safe, everyone. Good night.